Hello everyone. In this video we are going to make a windmill and then we are going to convert it into a fan. This is part of our robotics construction level 1 program. We will divide this video into two parts. In the first part, our learning objective is to assemble the windmill and to understand the use of gears to transmit motion. We have done that in our earlier video where we constructed vintage car. So first step for constructing a windmill, we have one C plate, one L plate. They are connected using two nuts and bolts. You can connect the nuts and bolt in any way, that is from down to up or up to down. It doesn't matter. Ensure that if you are putting it from up to down, the bolt tails do not touch the ground. Otherwise, the stand will not be balanced. Then on this L plate, we will connect a motor as well. Motor is always connected with a motor shaft. You can see the motor shaft is coming out from this vertical slit, middle vertical slit. And the motor screws are one in the middle vertical slit and one in the horizontal slit here. Then we are also creating one hole here using a flat rotator. It is connected in a slanted way and connected with one nut bolt in the circular hole, so that the second circular hole is free here and we get a hole to put our axle. Flat rotators are used for two purposes. One is to create a hole for an axle because we have a slit, and in the slit the axle moves up down. So we want to restrict that movement of axle up down, so we create a hole using the flat rotator, where we attach the flat rotator using only one bolt here. Here on the motor shaft, we first put a shaft lock and then we put the medium gear and we lock it in place using another shaft lock. Why did we put a shaft lock behind? Just to avoid any friction. Then for the gear B, which is the big gear, there also we use a shaft lock behind the gear. We can use a small axle or a medium axle, and we lock the axle from behind the L plate using one shaft lock. In front of the axle we put two spacers and then one more shaft lock to lock it. So this way now this big gear and this medium gear are in place. They mesh with each other properly, and we will go to the next step. We'll create the fan. Now to create the fan, we have used two double bars. Ensure that you get the best possible centering, and we join these two double bars using a flat rotator. Now here we are putting the nuts and bolts into both the circular holes of flat rotator. That leaves only the square hole of flat rotator open. Why are we doing this? We are going to mount this fan using this hole onto the axle. This is a square hole. The axle also is a square. So it will fit in perfectly. And when the axle rotates, this flat rotator will rotate, because it doesn't have any space between the flat rotator and the axle. Flat rotator rotates along with axle. And since the flat rotator is joined to these two parts, these parts also rotate along with the flat rotator. And that is the second usage of the flat rotator. In the next step, we are going to mount this assembly which we created onto the axle from step 2. And we will lock it using a shaft lock. And that completes our windmill. Now the windmill is going to rotate slow. If you remove the big gear assembly and you just rotate this gear, you will see that this gear rotates fast. But when you put back the big gear assembly along with the fan blades, it rotates slow. Why does it happen? We are going to talk about that in next part of the video. In this part of the video, we have assembled the windmill and we have revised our understanding of use of gear to transmit motion. After you complete assembly of windmill, I want to give you a task. think how you can increase the speed of windmill and how you can convert this windmill into a fan. Use the clue which I have given, remove the windmill assembly and see how fast the medium gear rotates. And when you put the windmill assembly back, the windmill rotates slow. What can be happening and how can you make the change? Think about it. We will meet in next video where we will talk about how to change the windmill into a fan.